Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and a lot going on. Fall camp, some big recruiting news here recently. All that. We have some really good questions coming from inside the Red Redder subscribers, so let's dive right into them. First one comes from Engines53, who asks or says the new playoffs. It seems only AP rankings matter in seeding. Is this correct? And if so, with the Big Ten SEC bias by media, what are the chances of two Big 12 teams making it, or even a Big 12 team with two losses who won the championship making it? Well, I don't know if only the AP rankings matter, but there is a media bias. I mean, it would be disingenuous not to acknowledge that. It does seem like uh, journalists who work for networks who cover specific conferences. Now, I think the SEC and the Big Ten are great. I think they are the two best conferences, but how much so, I think, has been overstated. That's what we do in the media, myself included. So I have to own that. I'm not sure 100% that I can't say only AP rankings matter, but it sure does seem, or did last year, that they went by it a lot. In terms of Big 12 teams, no, I think the champion, unless they're just like they somehow get in with like four losses or something, I think the Big 12 champ will be in the playoffs. Now, more than one, I think, consider what I just discussed, what you already asked me. I think more than one is probably asking a lot this year. But, let's say somebody in the Big 12 makes it undefeated to the Big 12 championship, loses a close game to a one or two loss team who is the champion, then maybe both teams, depending on how the rest of the field looks, we'll have to see. But the odds are that, just one Big 12 team. But I do think a Big 12 team will make it. Next question comes from Swaitler. It says, forgive me if this has been covered already, but what are some things you're seeing from the new coordinators when compared to last year's group? Like anything they're teaching from their schemes and stuff. Yeah. What I'm hearing, what I've seen so far in terms of the biggest differences, let's start on defense. Shieldwood is a very, I don't want to say simple because simple isn't right. Um, but he's like a practical dude in that let's handle this, now let's go to that, now let's go to that. He doesn't seem to be bothered by a lot of overthinking, which I'm kind of that kind of personality who will overthink things that's important to me. He doesn't seem to suffer from that at all. And maybe I'm misreading him or just don't know him well enough yet. But and I think that carries over to his defense. I know, like let's say compared to last year, one of the big complaints. The the roster in terms of what Tech needs in order to win a conference championship. It wasn't there in terms of talent, or at least developed talent at that point. But complicating the matter was also a ton of miscommunication. It looked like guys were running different coverages and thought the other side of the field and of the secondary were running something else. There was just constant miscommunication. That's something I saw that was self-evident to me during the games. That's something I've talked about with coaches. I've talked about with players now going into this season as well. So that was a real thing. That really happened, and that contributed to the rough performance, especially on pass defense. So Shieldwood's got better personnel. Let's just say that. But in terms of scheme and what I'm hearing, the inside linebackers are going to be freed up more, which I like that. Some good players there. J. Raw and Ben Roberts, John Curry, Bryce Ramirez. Those are good football players. So them having more freedom to do more things is good. Also, everybody seems to be on the same page in terms of doing their job on given plays. And the coaches don't want to describe it as simplifying a scheme, but it's definitely like more drawn out. Like guys know what they're doing. So I expect communication to be improved. And then again, the personnel is improved. Offensively, I expect more pre-snap motion just to read what the defense is doing and to utilize motion in a couple of ways. That being one, pre-snap reads. Two, excuse me, getting some guys in some beneficial one-on-one matchups in space, which is just a key component of offense in general, but certainly spread offenses. And, Red Raider fans watching this will definitely recognize that from Mike Leach and then on. Kingsbury did a good job of getting guys in space and getting them a big chunk yards as well. Also, this is different, and it's going to be something to watch all year. Is there's more option routes. What that means is you can read the defenses and adjust your routes on the fly. So it's almost kind of opposite defense and offense. Now, it may sound complicated, and in some cases, yes, there are some miscommunicate or misreads in terms of the quarterback and receivers reading defenses certain ways or different ways. But that's where field comes in. That's where I'm really glad these receivers got to work in Mac Lefferts' offense all spring as well. Of course, Barron wasn't throwing, but he was out there communicating. He was in the meetings, all that. He has been back throwing since early summer, so I'm not expecting him being a veteran guy, him going to mostly veteran receivers. I don't expect that to be a big problem in terms of reading routes, but and being on the same page. But also, the plan is to push the ball vertically and stretch defenses more than we've seen in years past. So those are some of the initial differences. We'll know more once we actually see the team in games. That's just the way it goes. But that's what I've heard so far out of fall camp, talking to the coaches, talking to the players, and then what I've seen in the handful of practices I've been at as well. It's a good question. Mass Tech wants to know if this current 2025 Texas Tech football team were to go back in and play last year's schedule, what would the record, including the bowl games? I don't know. Definitely at least one or two more wins. I mean, the personnel has been improved greatly. And it's hard to put them together, the schedule and all that. The Tech was really close to going to the Big 12 championship. So I'll say 10-2. And then after, who knows if they, I don't know if they would have beaten Arizona State again. Arizona State had gotten much better by the end of the year. They were a handful for everybody, including Texas in the playoffs. So that would have been tough. But I'll say 10 or 11 wins overall. I'll tell you why. One of those losses, the loss at TCU, where Tech was up by 17 points in the second half or something like that and dropped it, this defense would not have given up that lead in the second half. I feel very confident saying that. Next question comes from Texan44. It says, well known or under the radar, which player stocks are rising right now with almost 2 weeks into camp? Yeah, it is almost 2 weeks into camp. And I actually asked Coach McGuire here recently about some young guys stepping up. He mentioned Leighton Stone, Michael Dvers, some young receivers. He also mentioned Connor Cardia, interior offensive lineman, who's getting an opportunity to run with the twos with a couple of injuries. Vinny Scurry and Hunter Zambrano both had minor injuries and were out for a little bit. Connor Cardia was going with the twos on offense, which means, and McGuire did a really good job of explaining this, he's going against the number 2 defensive line. And that number 2 defensive line has a lot of guys who have started a lot of Power 4 football games, good football players on that second, even third on the depth chart of the defensive line. So the fact that Connor Carty, a true freshman who was injured last year, I don't think he got to participate in spring either, has stepped in there and performed, not just like held his own, but done well. That's a really good sign. I know they really like Connor Carty and thought he was a big steal for them in the 2025 recruiting class. John Curry is another guy, interior linebacker. Excuse me, getting choked up. Here, got my Texas Tech cup with me, so and it's water just for the whiskey's for post game, not mailbags preseason. Whiskey's for post game, but John Curry's a guy I really like. He's playing behind J Rod, inside linebacker, but he's going to play some. He's also been getting some looks at star. I know Michael Dingle is a beast. He's a really good player, but the guy always seems to be banged up. Like every spring or fall, he ends up missing practices, and you got to be available. I mean, that's what a lot of people say. Best ability is availability, and I mean, it kind of is. You could be Michael Jordan on the hardwood or Walter Payton on the gridiron, but if you're injured, you can't really help your team a whole lot. So I'd like to see Dingle back out there. They have some other guys. They have several guys that star, but John Curry getting some looks in there is a good idea because you want to get your best players on the field. And John Curry, I feel like he's one of your top 20 defenders for sure, maybe even top 15. So I like the idea of moving him around, seeing where you can get John Curry on the field. But those are some guys. Michael Dvers looks really good in practice. I was watching him run routes today, and I just think that guy's going to be a stud. For those who don't know, he's a true freshman. He was here in the spring, though, so he's not just a complete noob as a true freshman. But Lubbock Cooper standout. He's not necessarily a guy you'll look at and be like, oh, he's a freak, getting off the bus, but there's just something about his body control and quickness. I really like Deaver. He's somebody to watch out for. Him and Ladenstone. All right. GB Jack says Coach's poll was released this week. Had Tech in the 20s and fifth Big 12 listed. He says he doesn't think he's going on a limb that the AP won't be similar. What are your thoughts on the disconnect between subscribers and the outside world? No, I think the outside world is taking notice of what Tech's doing. He wants to know what are they seeing that we aren't. Is it just we haven't done it yet, or are there a fatal flaw in the team? Kool-Aid is blinded at all of us too. I think here's the truth about preseason rankings and voting and all that stuff. There's no way I could sit here and tell you the in and outs of even a Big 12 opponent like, say, West Virginia. I know some key components on the team, but I can't say I really know the team. And that's the truth for a lot of the journalists out there. They have their beat. They know it in and out. They can tell you, what a dude's favorite color is and whatnot. But to expect to have that kind of knowledge about every team and to really put a preseason poll together it's kind of silly, to be honest. But I also think there's some comments in the thread on the Insider board basically answering this that you have to prove it. And I think that's true. And it's not just in football, it's in all sports. You see that in baseball. And I'll go the other side. Tech baseball under Tim Tadlock, over the last 10, 15 years has been one of the best programs in the country. And for that, they get the respect of a preseason top 25 rank we've seen the last 2 years, despite obviously 2 disappointing seasons. So it's not like it's a bias against Tech. It's not like maybe we're drinking too much Kool-Aid. It's just they simply don't know. They're going to find out. And you look at it just from afar. 2 new coordinators, all these new players. How are they going to put all these teams or all these components together? It's Texas Tech. When have they won big? They haven't. So I don't blame people for not just giving Tech respect for winning the offseason. But it is a way more talented roster, and if they put it together with, on paper, what looks to be one of the easier schedules in the conference, despite some pretty tough road games, I think Tech has a very good shot of making some big noise. I think it's legit. Covered other teams. I've been blessed to cover teams at all 3 levels of the sport, and this is a talented group that should win a lot of games and be in the hunt to go to the Big 12 championship. And I just feel like people don't have the information outside of knowing Tech won the offseason in many ways. Raider Power 7796 says, this is a good question. You were lost and alone in the woods with only a pocket knife and a bottle of water. Who would survive longer, you or Mighty Joe? Well, since Mighty Joe's not here, I'm going to give him the nod and say old sage Mighty Joe. But I'll tell you this about myself that I've learned, even just here in the 12 years since I've been in Lubbock. I'm a fighter. I want to live. I'm tough. That's the truth. I have a lot of faults. But, I've been, I spent early part of my life. My older brother's 7 years older than me. And so, him and his friends definitely bullied me some. He's a great brother. My hero in many ways. I look up to him. But I got tired of being picked on as a kid. So I spent a lot of my life being like, you're not going to bully me physically or mentally. I just kind of to the world. You get older, it's like, okay, whatever. I'm not worried about people bullying me. But life will bully you and beat you down. whether you be dropped in the woods with a pocket knife and a bottle of water, or whatever, just the way life can knock you down. And nobody's undefeated, but I'll tell you this: I won't give up. I'm a survivor. I'm a fighter, and I would do my best. But I'm afraid. I do also do watch Alone, and if you put me on that show, I would starve. So I'm a city boy, not a country boy. So it would be. I'm going to give the nod to Mighty Joe, but I would try and give him a run for his money for sure. All right. Tech Freak wants to know, are we expecting a big scare in the first game this football season like the past two? No, I do not expect Texas Tech to get a scare. I think Oregon State's the first game where, I don't think Arkansas, Pine Bluff, I don't think Kent State, they should not scare. I know we would have said that going into Abilene Christian, but look, we didn't know how bad that secondary was. We didn't know about all the miscommunication. We didn't know about what we did. But the fact that Tech had so many Abilene Christian had so many former Tech players, Tech coaches on that team, helped them as well. So I don't think it'll be a scare. I think this team rolls. I think it'll be a big win, and we'll be saying, what all can we take away from this game? All right, I believe this is the final question. Yes, and this comes from Elder Texan 79, who says, please rank the coordinators as to expected performance, offense, defense, and special teams. How do you determine the contribution of the coach compared to the players? Yeah, well, I guess to me, I'll answer your second question first. I mean, really, the job of a good coach is to put his put his players in the best position to succeed. And I think let's go over to basketball. We've seen McCastle and his coaches do a really good job of that, whether it be with the high screen and roll game, some of the things they do offensively, some of the ways they help out on defense as well. Some of their players, you can tell they know what their players' strengths and weaknesses are, and really try and accentuate those, and then help out the weaknesses when they have to. So, look, I think it's a player's game. It's mostly talent, but in college, I mean, it's so important getting the talent on campus. In terms of on-field performance, it's a little bit of both. I mean, you don't want to get in your players' way, and we've seen that here. We've seen that all over. You don't want to make it too complicated for them, but you also don't want to dumb it down to where the other teams can really scheme it up easily and see your tells, your trends, like what you tend to do. I think that gets coordinators in trouble more than anything is having trends. Like, okay, when we bring pressure, we're going to be in this coverage. If we don't, we're going to be in that coverage. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Or even substitution, like, okay, this guy's coming in, this is what they're going to try and do. So ultimately, though, I do think it's on the players. And in terms of ranking, well, I mean, I'm going to give Kenny Perry, I'm a huge Kenny Perry fan. Been covering him even back to his high school days a long time ago. I'm going to go by the way special teams has performed since he's been here. They've been tremendous. Coverage teams, punt teams, kicking teams, everything. Special teams have been amazing. And he's full-time special teams now. Garrett McGuire, yes, Joe McGuire's son is coaching the running backs now. So his time isn't split. And he can focus completely on special teams. So I'm going to give him the nod. I think I'm going to say Mac Leftwich in the offense second, just because historically, I mean, people complained about Tech's offense last year, and it was a top 10 offense in the country by several metrics. And then I'll say Shieldwood on defense in terms of I think it'll be greatly improved. So it depends on how you frame the question or how I answer it. I think it'll be the most improved, like it'll stand out. Like we'll be the most excited about what the defense has done after this season compared to the other two. But in terms of straight performance, like where they're ranked and everything, I'll go special teams, offense, and then defense. All right, well, that's going to do it. Man, great questions from y'all as usual. Getting closer and closer to kicking off the season. Big recruiting news here on the hardwood and the gridiron here just recently. Fall camp's in full swing. You got photo galleries from Stephen Chapman. You got Mighty Joe doing this thing right about Tech basketball and football. And hey, you got me doing these videos and writing about the upcoming season. But I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.